Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Shannon and this is Sewing with Nightmare, and today I'm going to be making a historically inspired vest, or waistcoat rather. So the pattern I'm going to be using is a Black Snail pattern for an 1890s ladies vest. And I already made myself a mock-up out of this cotton twill fabric that I had in my stash. And this is one of the first patterns that I think I've made in a really long time that I did not have to make any adjustments to. So this actually fit me without having to do any kind of bust adjustment or any kind of waist adjustment, nothing at all. So I went ahead and cut out my fashion fabric. I unfortunately did not record that. I thought I did, but I can't find it anywhere, so I don't have it to add to the video. But we can jump right in to my sewing. For my fabric choice, I decided to go with the fabric that I used for the Queen's Gambit for the fashion fabric portion, and then for the lining on the back and on the inside, I used a rayon challis, a brown rayon challis that I had used for another shirt. I will link that video in the description. I can't remember what the name of the shirt was, but I made 2 shirts in that video, and so I just used that same brown fabric as the lining and the back piece. And that's it. Let's go get started. So here I'm basting together all of my layers, just using a relatively thick cotton basting thread that breaks easily and also is very easy to take out. And these layers include, in some places, a interlining, a interfacing, and then the fashion fabric. And just depends on where, what particular piece it is, what is included. And I'm not really sure because I don't quite remember exactly if this particular piece had sew-in interfacing or not, but I do know that the front to bodice pieces both did. So I'm doing that with all of my layers so that when I go to sew them together, they are all in one piece, because there is also a lining inside of this jacket as well, or inside of this waistcoat as well. And so those pieces will also be contained by the lining. So you sew them all together with a basting stitch. So here what I'm doing is what's called a ladder stitch, and this is in order to secure that dart so that I can have an easier time sewing it down with the sewing machine. So I just go back and forth between either side of the dart on the lines, and then you just pull it tight, and then it gives you a really nice line on the other side for you just to stitch down with the sewing machine. And so I tried this method because I seen a couple of creators that were doing this, and I thought that it actually made it come out a little bit nicer when I sewed it, and it was easier to follow that line of the basting stitches as opposed to when you're using pins and stuff like that. So this was something that I just decided to try here. So here I'm marking out my stitching line on this back piece, the seam between the 2 center back pieces. And I did this because originally I thought I was just going to hand stitch it the entire project, and then I quickly realized that that was just absolute insanity, and I decided that I would machine stitch everything that I could. Because this project required so much hand stitching already, I didn't really want to add to my workload of hand stitching. So I decided I did hand stitch this seam, and then I hand felled it down. But then after I looked at the directions, I was just like, this is just insane. I'm not hand stitching this whole thing. I am no Bernadette Banner. So there was already so much hand stitching involved in this project that I did not need to add any additional work onto my plate. So I did end up machine stitching everywhere that I could. Here I'm just sewing that dart that is in the back. There's 2 back darts and they are diamond shaped, so pointy on both ends. And so when you have darts like that, normally I think you would want to do like from one side to the middle and then from the middle to the other side, but I didn't do that, so you just start on one side, but you don't backstitch on either side. So you're just going to tie off both sides. So here I'm just doing a double folded hem on that back seam allowance in the back lining portion of this waistcoat, and I just did that as a top stitch really quickly. So I just folded it over, ironed it down, and top stitched it in place. And then this is me doing both of the waistband ties, or the little straps that go in the back. So I like to mark the seam allowance here when you're doing a point so that you can know exactly where to pivot and you get a nice crisp point. There are other ways to do it as well. This is the way that makes sure that my seam allowance is even. So once those are all sewn, clipped, and turned, you go ahead and baste them in place here on this side seam, which is what I'm doing here on both sides. And then I go ahead and baste them down by hand with just like a quick basting stitch so that they're not going to be flopping around when you're trying to assemble the rest of the garment. So here I'm doing basically like a bias strip around the armhole here, and this is just on that back portion on the armhole, and so you just do that around there because the other side is going to have like a lining and a facing and all of that stuff. So this one here is just secured with a bias strip. So then I do that and then I turn it, iron it, and stitch it down. I believe I stitched it down with just a top stitch. So here I am sewing the dart in the front, which is a curved dart. And I think that on this one I also did that ladder stitch, but I don't know if I recorded it. Oh, so here you go. Here I'm doing the ladder stitch on the other side. So I did one, stitched it down, and then I came back, and I guess I forgot to record the other one. So here you can kind of see that I'm going back and forth with that ladder stitch, and then once I get all of the ladder stitches in place, then you can just pull it tight. It brings the two sides together and it makes it much easier for you to sew the dart, and you have like this line to follow. Unfortunately on this one, I think I didn't make my thread long enough when I was doing it, so I had to have two pieces of thread in there, which made it a little bit more complicated, but I still made it work and it still came out really good. And I think this method works much better, at least for me, than it does when I'm using pins and making a line, because I feel like it's kind of hard to make a curved line with a ruler and make it look good and then also sew it properly. So I think for this, if you like have a pattern marking and you mark it on your piece with like chalk or something like that, because this one I just cut the dart out on the paper pattern and then marked it in there once I had the piece already cut out, and it made it much easier for me to follow that line to do the ladder stitching. And then I just go to the sewing machine and stitch it down. But here I'm actually doing the shoulder seams, so I think I only recorded the first one that I did before. So this, and then here I'm doing like a catch stitch here. This is a catch stitch, so you sew the two shoulder seams together on the fashion fabric, and then you take I believe this is the interlining fabric, overlap them and attach stitch them down, which is a new stitch that I actually only just recently learned about, and I'm pretty sure I didn't do it right here, but all of that is covered up by the lining anyway, so I'm not really all that concerned. But you do that on both sides for the shoulder seams. So I hope you guys enjoyed that hand stitching ASMR. So here you can see that I am hand stitching down with a slip stitch, I believe, all the way around. So this has this twill tape on all the edges on the inside. So this is in the interlining layer, which is attached to the fabric layer too. And it goes all the way around all of the edges and all of the points, and you clip into the curves, and then you have to hand stitch on both sides down. So this was a very time-consuming process, and I only recorded part of it because I know nobody wants to watch all of this hand stitching. But you can see where all of the twill tape is on here. It actually calls for bridal tape, but I didn't have anything that was bridal tape. I don't even know if they sell that stuff, but I did have twill tape, which is a similar stuff. So I just used that, and I had enough to finish this project, which was convenient because it's really hard for me to get some notions around here because we don't have Joann's anymore, and Michael's kind of sucks. So here I'm stitching like the facing on the inside to the front, and then I'm going to be removing a lot of the basting stitches that I have here to hold the pieces together because I don't really need them anymore. And I think after that I cut down the center of the dart to open that up in the front, and then after that I do the other side. So I'm not really sure why I spend so much time removing all of this and pinning things in place because I can't really tell exactly what I'm doing here. Of course it's out of frame, so I apologize for that, but this was a little while ago that I did this, and I'm not really sure what I'm trimming here. I don't know. Huh, interesting. So once you sew all of the bridal tape around, I'm trimming back the seam allowance here, and then I am sewing the facings to it. So there is a facing on the bottom, and then there is a facing on the entire center front portion. So I believe that is what I'm doing here, lining up the facings with the right sides together and sew along the front bottom edges as well as the collar. And then I also attached the center back collar seam, which was a giant pain in the butt, and I don't think that I recorded that, but we shall see, because this is the facing right here. I love how I don't even remember what I did, because this was a few months ago, and this project, while it turned out amazing and I love it, it was a very challenging project, and it definitely challenged my my sewing skills, my hand sewing skills, and I definitely think that it came out good, but like my hand sewing skills for sure improved because of this project. So I'm really happy with how it came out, and you'll see in the end it did come out pretty well. I tried some new things that I never did before, and so I was really impressed with how it came out. But all that to say, it was a challenge. So this was all the way across. There's this facing that goes all the way from one side to the other around the neck, and then this is what creates that facing on the inside. So here I'm doing an understitch, but in reality this was irrelevant because it actually shows on the outside collar of it, which I guess if I had just done it as a design feature, it probably would have been fine, and nobody but me is going to really know, and you guys of course is going to know that I shouldn't have done that, but I wasn't going to go back and take it out. And it looks fine. It's not a big deal. It's just not necessary because it's visible. It really ended up not being an understitching, more of a top stitching, and I didn't realize that when I did it until it was all assembled and I could see it, and then I was kind of like, why did I do that? So here is where I'm sewing the back to the front, and there's like this square that you have to sew it in with, and in all reality it probably would have been better if I had just hand stitched it because it was so finicky, and trying to get it to work with the machine and then lay right and look good was actually quite a challenge. So some of it I actually ended up going back and taking out and then going in and hand stitching because it laid better when I did it that way. It wasn't completely even anyway, and other people that have made this pattern have complained about the same thing. And it may have been my material choice because I chose to do a wool on the front part, but then the lining pieces were like a rayon challis, and rayon challis is just sometimes really difficult to work with. So I wish I had picked something that was a little bit better for the lining piece as opposed to this rayon challis fabric, which it looks fine, but in hindsight it probably wasn't the best choice. And here we're just gonna pause for some Nightmare snuggles because he needed to snuggle me. I think this was like one of the coldest days of the year where we had like that ice storm, so all the cats were freezing. I believe here I'm doing a catch stitch to secure that back neckline area, the lining and the fashion fabric down to the collar, I believe. So here I'm finally stitching the side seams together, and then I can go and try it on and see how it actually fits me. So let's talk about this project. Okay, I'm just going to show you some of the details that I didn't record because it was all the hand sewing or forgot to record. So this is the inside here, and this is the lining fabric. So the last thing that I recorded, I think, was stitching this piece and this piece down to the inside, the interlining layer, which I did record that. Then I went through and put this lining piece on here. So the lining piece goes, it gets attached here to this back piece. So this is all hand sewn down here, here, and all the way around. So this is the front lining piece. And this said you were supposed to pleat it. I didn't actually see that until afterwards, and I didn't do it. And I think this smoother finish actually works better. After I did that on both sides, then I went ahead and made my buttonholes. And these are hand sewn buttonholes, but I would say that I'm not super impressed with my sewing here. This is the first time that I ever did. Nightmare. So this is the first time that I ever did a hand sewn buttonhole, and I think it came out okay, but I wasn't really super impressed with it. And then I sewed my buttons on, and these are not aligned perfectly, so I probably need to go in and fix that. But I'm not really that interested in doing it right now because this was a lot of work. So I did the hand sewn buttonholes, and then I sewed on all of these buttons, and then I had to adjust. So you can see here, this button is not aligned with this button, and that's because of my breasts. So it would not close if I had had it in line. And this is designed for you to wear over a corset. I don't have a corset, and maybe someday I will make one, and then maybe it will lay a little differently. And I can always move the buttons over. Obviously they're just hand sewn. And then there's this buttonhole on the inside and this button here on the inside, which I made, but I actually don't use it because it's impossible to get it buttoned closed. So that's that. And then here is the back and the little clasp on the back here. So all in all, I'm really happy with how it came out. I love the fabric that I used. I love the silhouette. I like how it looks on me. The only thing that I don't like is the fact that I feel like I need to have a corset. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you like my content and want to support my channel, please like and subscribe. You can leave a comment in the comments down below and let me know what you guys thought about this project and what kind of stuff you want to see next. And I will see you guys in my next video.